Imagine a country where faith is not just a belief, but the very heartbeat of daily life. Churches filled to the brim every Sunday, processions spill through city streets, and prayers mark everything from meals to milestones. In this nation, religion is more than personal conviction, it is the glue of society, woven into family ties, traditions, and even politics. To the outside world, it looks like an unshakable fortress of morality and devotion. And yet, hidden within this fortress lies a paradox that startles anyone who dares to look closer. For behind the hymns and rituals, this is also the country with one of the highest divorce and separation rates in the world. Couples, once united under the blessing of faith, are quietly drifting apart at unprecedented levels. At first glance, it seems impossible. How could the most religious country also be the one where so many marriages are breaking down? Isn't faith supposed to protect love, to strengthen bonds, to keep families together? This paradox is what makes the Philippines so fascinating and so heartbreaking. A nation that proudly calls itself the only predominantly Catholic country in Asia, where the church's influence remains unparalleled, is also grappling with marriages collapsing at a rate that shocks both its own citizens and outside observers. To understand this contradiction, we have to look beyond the surface, into the everyday lives of people who navigate between tradition and modernity, devotion and discontent. Marriage in the Philippines is often treated as sacred, a lifelong covenant not just between two people but also with God. Yet, behind the solemn vows, there are pressures that few speak about openly. Families push young people to marry early, communities judge those who wait too long, and the expectation to conform overshadows the search for true compatibility. These forces create unions that look perfect on the outside but conceal struggles within. The paradox grows sharper when we listen to the unspoken stories. Husbands and wives who smile at Sunday Mass but sleep in separate rooms. Couples who share meals but not conversations. Parents who stay together out of fear of gossip, even when love has long since vanished. In a society where appearances matter deeply, silence often takes the place of honesty, and resentment quietly builds. Eventually, some cannot take it any longer, and the silence shatters into separation. This raises questions that demand exploration. Is faith strong enough to hold marriages together in a changing world? Or is it precisely the weight of cultural and religious expectations that makes these marriages so fragile? Could it be that in trying so hard to uphold the image of morality, many couples bury the truth of their dissatisfaction until it becomes unbearable? These are not just abstract questions, they shape the lives of millions. And as we move deeper into the story, we will see how faith, culture, and hidden realities intertwine to create one of the greatest social contradictions of our time. From the proud traditions of Catholic devotion to the quiet despair behind closed doors, the Philippines reveals what happens when unshakable beliefs meet the messy, human reality of love and marriage. To understand why the paradox of divorce is so striking here, we first need to appreciate just how deeply faith runs through the Philippines. For many families, religion is not a private practice, but a way of life that shapes every decision, from how children are raised to how communities gather. Catholicism arrived with the Spanish more than 4 centuries ago, and its presence remains everywhere, etched in the architecture of towns, echoed in the rhythm of daily prayers, and felt in the authority of the church over moral questions. Every week, millions attend Mass, often more than once. In rural areas, church bells still ring out to call the faithful, and in cities, processions bring traffic to a halt as statues of saints are carried through crowded streets. Beyond the rituals, there is also a strong cultural belief that marriage is sacred and divorce is unacceptable. Even today, the Philippines remains one of the few countries in the world where divorce is heavily restricted, and where annulments, often costly and complicated, become the only legal option to end a marriage. This creates a sense of permanence around marriage that, in theory, should make families stronger. Parents encourage their children to view weddings not as personal milestones, but as solemn commitments to God, family, and society. Religious education in schools reinforces the importance of chastity, obedience, and loyalty, tying moral worth to the stability of family life. To stray from these teachings is often seen not just as a personal failure, but as a betrayal of faith itself. Yet, within this devotion lies a challenge. The same expectations that give marriage a sacred aura can also trap couples in unions where love has faded. Religious leaders emphasize patience and endurance, reminding couples that suffering can be holy and that marriage is meant to last until death do us part. For some, this is a source of strength. a reason to work harder at their relationship. For others, it becomes a cage, forcing them to stay in silence rather than admit that their bond has crumbled. This strong presence of faith sets the stage for a deeper tension. On one hand, it promises stability, order, and moral clarity. On the other, it creates immense pressure to conform, even when the heart is no longer in it. And it is exactly in this gap between sacred promise and human reality that the struggles of Filipino marriages begin to emerge. In the Philippines, marriage is not only a sacred act of faith, but also a powerful social contract, one that extends far beyond the couple at the altar. To marry is to fulfill a duty to parents who expect grandchildren, to communities that prize stability, and to traditions that have stood for generations. From the earliest years, young Filipinos grow up surrounded by reminders that their worth is tied to family honor, and that honor is preserved most visibly through marriage. Parents often take an active role in guiding their children toward marriage, sometimes even arranging introductions or quietly pressuring them to commit early. A son or daughter who postpones marriage is seen with suspicion, whispered about in neighborhood gossip. Remaining single too long can spark speculation. What's wrong with him? Or why hasn't she settled down? In a culture where reputation travels fast and appearances carry heavy weight, marriage becomes less about love and more about social validation. This is not to say that romance plays no role. Courtship is still celebrated, often infused with old traditions such as serenades or formal visits to the parents' home. Yet, behind the gestures of affection lies a practical calculation. Families seek partners who match in religion, values, and often social standing. A young woman may be admired for her education, but if she marries outside her class or faith, the union can be met with disapproval. The underlying message is clear. Marriage is not just about personal happiness, it is a reflection of the family's image in the wider community. For many couples, these expectations create a heavy burden. Love may spark the relationship, but once vows are exchanged, the demands of conformity take center stage. Husbands are expected to provide financially, no matter how limited their opportunities. Wives are often judged by their ability to maintain harmony at home, raise children properly, and remain loyal regardless of difficulties. Struggles inside the marriage are rarely shared openly, since to admit to them risks tarnishing the family's reputation. Silence, once again, becomes the default response. And this silence can be costly. When two people enter a marriage under pressure rather than readiness, cracks are almost inevitable. Some realize only after the wedding that they are poorly matched, but by then, expectations have locked them in. Others discover that the romantic ideals they grew up with of lifelong love and unwavering support clash with the daily realities of financial hardship, personality conflicts, or unmet emotional needs. What might have been addressed with openness becomes buried under the weight of "what will people say?" As these pressures mount, the contradiction grows sharper. The very traditions meant to safeguard marriage can also undermine it, creating unions that are fragile beneath the surface. And as the numbers show, when appearances can no longer be maintained, more and more couples are choosing the difficult path of separation. This tension between public duty and private discontent leads us straight into the heart of the paradox: why a country so devoted to family and faith finds itself with one of the highest divorce and separation rates in the world. For a nation where faith and family are so deeply revered, the statistics are nothing short of startling. Surveys and studies over the past decades revealed that the Philippines consistently ranks among the countries with the highest rates of marital breakdown in Asia. Even though divorce itself remains heavily restricted, separations and annulments have risen dramatically. Courtrooms are full of cases where couples, once bound by solemn vows before God, now seek legal or unofficial ways to part. This reality stands in stark contrast to the country's image as the bastion of Catholic devotion. On paper, marriage is supposed to be indissoluble, a lifelong covenant. In practice, however, thousands of couples each year decide that continuing together is no longer possible. The contradiction is jarring. Sermons call for eternal commitment, while communities whisper about neighbors who have quietly separated. Behind the curtain of devotion, a different story unfolds, one of growing disillusionment with the very institution that is supposed to symbolize stability. The reasons for this rise in broken unions are complex. Some point to the growing influence of modern individualism, where people are less willing to stay in unhappy situations simply for the sake of appearances. Others emphasize the crushing weight of financial strain, with money disputes ranking among the top causes of separation. Still others highlight the rigid gender roles that leave both men and women dissatisfied. Men under pressure to be sole providers, women expected to endure without complaint. But perhaps the most telling factor is silence. In a society where admitting marital problems can bring shame, couples often keep their struggles hidden. Without open dialogue or access to counseling, frustrations pile up until they explode. When communication fails, when trust erodes, and when love no longer holds sway, separation becomes the only escape. This paradox has created a strange double reality. On Sundays, families still fill the pews, holding hands in prayer, singing hymns of devotion. But by Monday, lawyers draft petitions for annulments, and judges listen to stories of betrayal, neglect, or simple incompatibility. It is as if two Philippines exist side by side. One idealized in the church's teaching, the other lived in the private homes where vows quietly unravel. And the impact goes far beyond the couples themselves. Children caught in the middle of parental disputes struggle with confusion and instability. Extended families, once the proud guardians of honor, find themselves navigating shame and division. The very foundation of community life, the family unit, wobbles under the weight of these contradictions. The Philippines thus finds itself at a crossroads. It is still one of the most devout nations in the world, yet it also faces the undeniable reality of fractured families. To outsiders, this may seem like a contradiction without resolution. But for Filipinos, it is a daily reality, one that forces them to question not only the institution of marriage, but also the expectations of tradition and the demands of faith itself. If statistics reveal the scale of separation, it is in the quiet corners of daily life where the reasons truly emerge. Behind closed doors, far from the eyes of neighbors and the authority of the church, couples confront the struggles that slowly erode their marriages. These struggles are rarely dramatic at first. Instead, they creep in quietly through financial strain, unspoken resentment, or mismatched expectations, and grow until silence can no longer contain them. One of the most common sources of tension is money. For many Filipino families, income is unstable, with fathers working abroad as overseas laborers or mothers taking on small businesses to make ends meet. At first, these sacrifices are framed as noble acts, necessary to secure a better future. But over time, long absences, constant budgeting, and the stress of survival take a toll. Arguments over expenses become frequent, especially when one partner feels the burden is unfairly carried. What begins as small disagreements over bills or savings often grows into bitterness, with each side feeling unheard and unappreciated. Gender roles add another layer of conflict. Husbands are expected to embody strength and financial responsibility, while wives are judged on their ability to keep households harmonious. Yet in modern times, these roles are shifting. Women increasingly pursue education and careers, balancing professional ambitions with family duties. While this progress is empowering, it can also unsettle traditional dynamics, leaving couples unsure of how to adapt. A husband may feel threatened by his wife's independence, while a wife may feel frustrated by a partner unwilling to share responsibilities at home. And so, what looks like a stable home from the outside often hides a fragile reality. The expectations of faith and tradition urge couples to stay together, but the quiet unhappiness inside many marriages eventually overpowers the facade. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the hidden realities of societies around the world.
Imagine a land where time doesn't just pass, it lingers. Where the walls of ancient cities whisper stories 1,000 years old. A place where women, cloaked in elegance and pride, walk streets paved with history, and not a single drop of alcohol touches the table. Not by force, but by choice. This is Uzbekistan, and it's unlike anywhere else. What makes a country truly unforgettable? Is it the breathtaking beauty of its people, the absence of nightlife as we know it, or cities so old they stood before Europe knew the printing press? Uzbekistan forces you to question what you really know about culture, tradition, and allure. Because in Uzbekistan, contrasts aren't just present, they're poetic. You'll find yourself in a nation where beauty is not just admired, but protected. Where women, strong and dignified, carry centuries of tradition in how they dress, speak, and hold themselves. This isn't about conservatism or control, it's about heritage, and that alone turns heads. It's not unusual to meet someone whose great-grandmother wore the same embroidered patterns, or whose name carries stories from Persian, Turkic, and Islamic origins alike. Then there's the sobriety. In a world soaked in nightlife and celebratory drinks, Uzbekistan remains dry, not in joy, but in alcohol. It's not prohibition, it's culture. Rooted in Islamic values, this choice creates a kind of social clarity that most tourists never expect. What do weddings look like when champagne isn't flowing? What bonds people when the pub isn't the center of Friday night? You might be surprised at how deep the connections run when there's no buzz to hide behind. Yet what's most compelling is how this all feels so normal, so fluid. You walk into a tea house instead of a bar. You're greeted with hot green tea and sweets instead of cocktails. Hospitality becomes a full-body experience, welcoming, warm, and unfiltered. And still, there's more. Because when you step into cities like Samarkand and Bukhara, you don't just visit them, you feel them. Every minaret, every tile, every bazaar shouts history, while the silence between their ancient walls speaks even louder. These cities were once the beating heart of the Silk Road, the crossroads of civilizations, and in many ways, they still are. But how does a country with such a rich past find its place in a modern world? How do its people, especially its women, balance progress and tradition? And what does it truly mean to live in a land where alcohol is taboo, but generosity flows endlessly? In this video, we're journeying through Uzbekistan, not just with our eyes, but with our minds and hearts. We'll meet cities that have stood for over 2 millennia, traditions that refuse to vanish, and people whose pride is as vast as the steppe. And it all begins with the cities, cradles of culture, living monuments to time. Uzbekistan's cities aren't just old, they're timeless. They weren't built to impress tourists or sell postcards. They were born from trade, faith, poetry, and war. And they've endured it all with grace. Let's start with Samarkand. Just hearing the name stirs the imagination. Once called the mirror of the world, it was the jewel of the Silk Road, where merchants, mystics, and emperors crossed paths. But unlike many ancient cities, Samarkand isn't a museum. It breathes. Locals gather in its courtyards. Children play near its mosques. And the call to prayer still echoes through the same streets that once welcomed caravans from China, Persia, and the Arab world. The Registan, its beating heart, is a plaza like no other. 3 madrasas, Islamic schools, face one another, adorned with turquoise tiles and Quranic verses. You don't just look at the Registan, you absorb it. Every detail was crafted not just for beauty, but to reflect the divine. It's a place where geometry and spirituality collide, where symmetry becomes a form of worship. Step inside, and the sensation is overwhelming. The light filters through lattice windows in fractured gold, casting moving shadows that seem almost alive. You start to feel smaller, but not in a diminishing way, in a grounding one, like you've entered a space that humbles you into silence. Then there's Bukhara, older, earthier, and even more spiritual. If Samarkand dazzles like a queen, Bukhara hums like a sage. For centuries, it was a center of Islamic learning, home to thousands of scholars and over 350 mosques. The city was once so full of knowledge that a traveler joked you couldn't throw a stone without hitting a poet or a theologian. Walking through its old town feels like stepping into a time lapse. The architecture is softer, built from sand-colored bricks that glow under the desert sun. The Kalyan minaret, towering over the city, once served as both a beacon of faith and a grim reminder of justice. It was said that criminals were thrown from its top. Yet today, it stands in silence, bearing witness to centuries of change. Bukhara's charm lies in its details, the wooden beams of its mosques, hand-carved and worn by time. The domed bazaars, where spices still pile high and fabrics ripple in the breeze. Even the air feels different here, older, deeper, as if the very dust remembers things. Khiva, lesser known but equally enchanting, feels like a city trapped in amber. Enclosed by fortress walls and restored with obsessive care, it offers the purest visual slice of Central Asian antiquity. You'll find narrow alleyways, ochre walls and towers that cast long shadows across clay-tiled rooftops. Every step echoes the footfalls of Silk Road travelers, and every breath carries the scent of earth and history. And yet, these cities aren't frozen in the past. In Tashkent, Uzbekistan's capital, the pace quickens. It's a post-Soviet city reinventing itself. Soviet-era buildings share space with gleaming glass towers, while leafy boulevards host both traditional tea houses and Western coffee chains. It's a city of layers, where history and ambition coexist. But even Tashkent respects its roots. The Khast Imam complex houses one of the oldest Qurans in existence, the Uthman Quran, written on deerskin and stained with the blood of its guardian. It's more than a relic. It's a sacred thread in the fabric of Uzbek identity. What's striking is not just the preservation of these cities, but how they're lived in. This isn't a Disneyland version of culture. It's real. You'll see school kids in uniform skipping past ancient mosques, and vendors selling SIM cards a few feet away from centuries-old tombs. This harmony of past and present is not accidental. It's deeply Uzbek. This relationship with history also speaks volumes about the people. For Uzbeks, heritage isn't just something to remember, it's something to inhabit. Ancient traditions are not dusted off for show. They're worn like second skin. Respect for elders, storytelling, tea rituals. These are everyday acts, not performances. You feel it in the way people speak, with poetic metaphors and references to old proverbs. You see it in their homes, where carved wood, painted ceramics, and family photographs live side by side. The architecture isn't just aesthetic. It's functional, meant to keep families close and neighbors closer. Even weddings here are a cultural feast, blending age-old customs with flashes of modern flair. Guests may arrive in designer heels, but they'll still partake in rituals passed down through generations. Rituals that take place not in rented banquet halls, but in ancestral homes or community courtyards. Yet, for all their reverence of history, these cities don't resist change. They absorb it. They evolve. In recent years, Uzbekistan has opened its doors wider to the world. Visa reforms, increased tourism, and foreign investment are reshaping its urban landscapes. And yet, it remains grounded. Unlike many destinations that trade authenticity for convenience, Uzbekistan insists on doing things its own way. Even technology takes a different tone here. Free Wi-Fi might light up a madrasa courtyard, but alongside it, an elder recites a poem by Alisher Navoy. The digital age hasn't erased memory. It's layered on top of it. It's not just the cities that remember. It's the people. History lives in the way they host you, in the rhythm of their language. It lives in the meals cooked from recipes handed down over centuries, and in the silence of a family tea shared at sunset. This balance between honoring the past and embracing the future is perhaps what defines Uzbekistan's cities best. And it's in these very streets, beneath the blue domes and inside the tiled courtyards, that another part of the Uzbek story unfolds. The women, revered, celebrated, sometimes misunderstood, often strong beyond what the outside world can see. So let's turn the page, not away from history, but toward the people who live within it. In Uzbekistan, women are not just part of the story, they are the story. They are the keepers of tradition, the heartbeat of hospitality, the ones who raise generations and carry culture in their very presence. And yet, they remain some of the most misunderstood figures in global narratives. To the outsider, their modest dress and reserved demeanor might signal limitation. But to understand Uzbek women is to understand strength, not in protest, but in presence. Across the country, from the wide boulevards of Tashkent to the narrow alleys of Khiva, you'll find women leading schools, running businesses, working in medicine, law, and design. Education isn't a privilege here, it's an expectation. Generations of women have been sent to school with pride. Literacy rates are high, and you'll often find mothers more insistent than fathers that their daughters succeed academically. But achievement doesn't cancel tradition. It runs alongside it. A young woman may earn a medical degree and return home in the evening to help prepare plov, the national rice dish for her family. She may wear European brands on campus and don a hand-stitched ikat dress for a holiday. The modern Uzbek woman lives in duality, not torn between two worlds, but fluent in both. There's a quiet elegance in how Uzbek women move through life. Their gestures, their tone of voice, even the way they pour tea speak volumes. Hospitality here is not a task, it's an art, and women are its artists. The first thing you'll notice in an Uzbek home is the warmth of its women, offering food, a cushion, a story. You'll be full before you realize you're hungry. These acts may appear simple, but they are deliberate. In many Uzbek households, the ability to host is a measure of pride. A woman's role as a hostess is not submissive, it's commanding. She orchestrates the experience, makes you feel honored, expected, and cared for. Still, tradition carries its own shadows. Though women have risen in education and public life, cultural expectations remain firmly rooted. Marriage is not just a personal milestone, it's a social one. A young woman in her late 20s might be praised for her career but quietly questioned for not being married. Family and community still place marriage, motherhood, and family reputation as central pillars of a woman's identity. And yet, there is no singular Uzbek woman. In some regions, women cover their hair with colorful scarves. In others, they walk freely with heads uncovered. Some speak Russian at home, others Uzbek, Tajik, or a mix of all three. There are women who bake tandir bread at sunrise, and women who run digital startups from co-working cafes. They are not contradictions. They are the natural result of a country at the crossroads of past and future. It's also important to understand where strength really lies in this culture. In Uzbekistan, women have always wielded power, quietly. While men may dominate in formal leadership, women command in family, in society, in the invisible architecture of everyday life. Eldest mothers, known as oyis, often hold immense sway in household decisions. Respect for them is non-negotiable. Even rituals of respect are gendered but balanced. A younger man may bow to his mother-in-law. A bride may kneel before her grandmother. These aren't signs of weakness. They are gestures that preserve harmony. And for many, they're chosen, not enforced. But like every tradition, these dynamics are evolving. In urban areas, especially among younger generations, marriage is happening later. More women are choosing to prioritize careers or study abroad. Many are choosing their own partners instead of relying on family arrangements. The definition of success is slowly expanding to include autonomy, creativity, and choice. There is also a growing movement of women who are reclaiming cultural symbols on their own terms. Fashion designers are reinterpreting traditional patterns. Artists are celebrating feminine identity in murals, fabrics, and poems. There's a quiet cultural renaissance underway, led by women who are reshaping the meaning of tradition rather than rejecting it. Challenges still exist. Gender-based expectations can still feel heavy. Access to leadership positions remains uneven, and in rural areas, older customs can still clash with younger desires. But what stands out is how few women see themselves as victims of these circumstances. Instead, they adapt, respond, and reframe. Even the older generation has not been left behind. Grandmothers, once limited to domestic spaces, are now sought out for their knowledge of crafts, herbs, and oral histories. Their role is being reframed, not just as caretakers, but as cultural authorities. When you speak to Uzbek women about their identity, you don't hear a rehearsed line. You hear nuance. You hear pragmatism mixed with pride. Many will say, "We are traditional, but we are not static. We move with time, but we know who we are." And that identity is often defined not by resistance, but by resilience. As you travel through Uzbekistan, you begin to feel it too. In the streets, the schools, the markets, you see the mark of women everywhere. It's not loud, it doesn't demand attention, but it changes everything it touches. You'll see it in how a grandmother gathers children around her to recite old stories, or how a teenage girl in jeans rushes to her grandmother's side when tea is being served. You'll hear it in lullabies that haven't changed in 100 years, and in voices raised at community meetings about how to make neighborhoods better for everyone. And that presence continues, even in the next layer of life. How people eat, how they celebrate, how they refrain. In the absence of alcohol, you begin to notice something else. Clarity. Gatherings become more personal. Words carry more weight. Laughter comes from memory, not intoxication. And so, we step into the next chapter of Uzbek life. In a world where celebrations often mean a clink of glasses and a buzz of conversation fueled by wine or whiskey, Uzbekistan offers something radically different. Here, life unfolds without alcohol, and not because it's banned, but because it's simply not part of the culture. At first glance, this absence might seem strange to an outsider. There are no bars lining the streets, no happy hour flyers in shop windows, no cocktails at weddings. But what replaces them might surprise you. Sincerity, intimacy, and a kind of attentiveness that alcohol can sometimes dull. Sobriety in Uzbekistan is deeply tied to the country's Islamic roots. The vast majority of Uzbeks identify as Muslim, and while not everyone is religious in the strict sense, Islamic values shape the rhythm of daily life. Modesty, hospitality, and respect. These values permeate everything, from how people greet each other to how they celebrate. And central to that code is the choice to abstain. But this isn't a place of restrictions. It's a place of rituals. Walk into a home, and instead of being offered wine, you'll be given tea. Not just a quick cup, but a ceremony. The tea is poured from a height into small porcelain cups, then back into the pot 3 times. It's more than presentation, it's purification. Every motion is thoughtful. Every sip, a bridge between guest and host. At weddings, you won't find an open bar, but you will find long tables lined with fruit, salads, grilled meats, and endless rounds of toasts made with sparkling water or compote. The joy isn't dimmed, it's sharpened. People dance, they sing, they laugh, and remember it all the next morning. And make no mistake, gatherings are lively, music is loud, and dancing is expected. The energy doesn't come from a bottle. It comes from the people, from connection, from history, and from a shared understanding that joy doesn't need to be intoxicated to be real. There's a social benefit to this shared sobriety. Arguments are rare. Violence is almost unheard of. Family events aren't split between drinkers and non-drinkers. They're unified. Young and old share the same space, table, and moment. Without alcohol, people are more present, and presence brings rewards. Children see adults model balance. Relationships grow without artificial highs. Joy becomes a memory, not a blur. Yes, alcohol exists. It's sold, and it appears in some restaurants, especially tourist spots or Russian-influenced areas in the north. But it's not central. It's not expected. This also shapes gender dynamics. In many places, alcohol divides. Men here, women there. In Uzbekistan, traditions include everyone. Tea circles aren't only for women. Dance floors welcome all. The culture is communal, not cliquish. Visitors often arrive expecting restriction, but find warmth instead. They brace for formality, but find laughter, music, and storytelling that flow for hours without a drop of alcohol. There's something almost spiritual here. Moments aren't dulled, they're sharpened. You remember the bread's taste, the way someone smiled. Nothing's blurry, nothing to recover from. Where others drink to escape, here people gather to connect. It's not escape, it's return. Return to being fully human, together. And for those who stay, something shifts. Clarity becomes addictive. Awareness makes everything more vivid. The absence of alcohol feels like freedom, not loss. This way of life is clearest during Ramadan. For a month, many Uzbeks fast from dawn to dusk, not just from food, but indulgence and anger. It's difficult, but it builds something lasting. Discipline, empathy, gratitude. And that spirit continues year-round. In meals, in celebrations, in quiet nights under the stars. Even on ordinary days, sobriety reshapes life. And when you leave a party still humming with music, or a family dinner where you were honored without a drop of wine, you begin to understand. It's not what's missing, it's what's present. And what's present in Uzbekistan is something rare, deep, undistracted, wholehearted connection. That's what lets the next part of the story shine. If one word defines Uzbekistan, it isn't history, beauty, or tradition. It's hospitality. Here, the welcome is sacred. You're not a guest. You're an honored presence. In a remote village or a busy Tashkent street, you're not asked if you want tea. You're given it. Food appears. Smiles unfold. Stories bridge cultures. Hospitality here isn't just comfort. It's identity. It says human connection matters most. How you treat a stranger speaks louder than status or lineage. To welcome someone is to affirm your own humanity. This spirit flows through all of Uzbek life, not just homes, but markets, taxis, streets. A casual kindness underpins daily life. It makes the country feel like more than a destination. It feels like a conversation, and it's genuine. People aren't warm because you're foreign. They're warm because it's who they are. This warmth is ancestral, never performative. That generosity, paired with deep cultural pride, is what keeps Uzbekistan grounded as the world spins faster. The nation has carried the weight of empires, religion, Soviet control, and now, globalization. Yet it hasn't lost itself. It hasn't erased the past, it layers it. A girl attends robotics class, then helps hang hand-woven rugs. A cafe serves French pastries over traditional shashmakam music. Instagram is everywhere, but so are age-old proverbs. This isn't contradiction, it's clarity. You don't have to abandon the old to embrace the new. That mindset is shaping Uzbekistan's next chapter. The government is building roads, restoring museums, and teaching more foreign languages. It's not just about inviting the world in. It's about showing the world who Uzbekistan is, on its own terms. Young Uzbeks lead this shift. They're launching apps in Tashkent, eco-lodges in the Nuratau Mountains, fashion brands in Bukhara that merge modern and traditional design. They're not rejecting heritage, they're reviving it. So what does the future look like for a country so steeped in the past? It looks like progress without losing the sacred. Tea before business, blessings before weddings, grandparents sharing stories that aren't found in textbooks. The challenge, and the beauty, is in the balance. In a world addicted to speed, Uzbekistan values pause. In a time of spectacle, it finds joy in simplicity. While many struggle with fragmented identities, Uzbekistan remains whole, not perfect, but deeply rooted. And this steadiness is contagious. Visitors leave changed, not by thrill, but by presence. Not by extremes, but by being seen, respected, and embraced. That feeling lasts. It also inspires reflection. What if more of the world moved slower, treated hospitality as sacred, honored identity not as branding, but as a legacy? In Uzbekistan, these aren't just questions, they're lived. In the grandmother stitching Suzani, in the poet updating ancient rhythms, in the coder who recites folk tales at night, their duality doesn't divide, it completes. Even the land reflects it. Mountains and deserts wait in patient stillness. We leave with perspective. Uzbekistan doesn't clamor for your attention. It waits, like a gracious host. And when you sit at its table, what you receive isn't just food or facts, but feeling. And in that moment, you realize the country isn't asking to be understood. It's asking you to slow down long enough to feel it. Because that's what makes Uzbekistan unforgettable. Not the tiles or towers or even the traditions, but the people, the heart, the unspoken warmth that turns strangers into guests and guests into family. And if you felt that, even for a moment, then you've touched the soul of Uzbekistan. So if you've enjoyed this journey, leave a like and share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got more stories from across the globe that show just how rich, surprising, and deeply human this world can be. What does love look like when your entire budget is just $100? Not for a week, not for a fancy dinner, for everything. Every coffee, every bus ride, every flower, every whispered promise. Now imagine trying to do that in a place where average monthly salaries hover below $150, and traditional values still shape the rules of courtship. Welcome to Tajikistan, a country few can find on the map, yet one that holds some of the deepest stories of resilience, beauty, and yes, love. We're about to explore what it's really like to date in one of the poorest yet most breathtaking countries in Central Asia. A land where love doesn't come wrapped in luxury, but in eye contact, in shared bread, in conversations over candlelight during frequent power outages. Where romance isn't just a feeling, it's a quiet defiance against hardship. Can you build a connection with someone when you only have $100 in your pocket? Is love in Tajikistan about grand gestures or simple survival? And how does romance unfold when modern apps and ancient customs collide? These are the questions we're setting out to answer. Tajikistan is a country shaped by mountains and memories. Nearly 93% of its landscape is mountainous, and its history is just as rugged. A former Soviet republic, independent only since 1991, it's a place still healing from civil war, economic hardship, and a painful diaspora. Many of its men leave the country to work abroad, sending money back home, leaving behind a generation of women navigating love in their own quiet strength. But that's only half the story, because even here, in dusty villages and buzzing bazaars, in the silence of high-altitude valleys and the noise of Soviet-era apartment blocks, love blooms. Not in extravagance, but in resilience. Not in apps, but in glances exchanged across market stalls. So we've come to ask, what happens when you give yourself a tiny budget and an open heart? In this video, we'll walk through city streets, meet young couples, dive into the complexities of dating customs, and even attempt a few dates of our own. No tricks, no hidden help, just $100, a camera, and the curiosity to understand how love works when it's stripped down to its essence. Let's begin. Tajikistan doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't flash neon lights or promise luxury escapes on Instagram. But those who visit often say the same thing. They never expected to fall in love with it. Tucked between Afghanistan, China, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan is the kind of place that makes you question why you've never heard more about it. It's stunning, wild, and humbling. Over 90% of its terrain is mountains, part of the majestic Pamir Range, often called the roof of the world. These mountains cradle not only villages but stories, each one carved into rock and ice over centuries. Yet life here is anything but easy. Tajikistan is one of the poorest countries in Central Asia. After gaining independence in 1991 following the collapse of the Soviet Union, it plunged into a 5-year civil war that scarred its people and economy. Today, many of its citizens live on less than $3 a day. Jobs are scarce, especially for young men, and nearly half the male workforce migrates seasonally to Russia in search of work. This economic reality shapes everything, including how people fall in love. In the capital, Dushanbe, the modern world slowly peeks through Soviet-style buildings. There are leafy boulevards, cafes buzzing with laughter, and even universities where young people dream beyond borders. But beyond the city, time seems to pause. In rural areas, traditional life persists, with arranged marriages, gender roles, and close-knit communities playing central roles in daily life. Most families in these regions still rely on the agricultural calendar. Weddings are massive community affairs, often arranged with the help of relatives. Dowries are still common. A daughter's marriage can mean financial security or, conversely, added debt. And yet, these customs aren't seen as burdens. They're part of the rhythm of life, deeply respected and rarely questioned. It's this fusion of modernity and tradition that makes dating in Tajikistan so layered and compelling. In cities, some young people secretly swipe through dating apps like Tinder or Mamba, chatting late at night and arranging covert meetups. But in the villages, love often starts with a glance at a wedding, a cousin's introduction, or a shared bucket at the community well. It's subtle, slow, and steeped in cultural nuance. Love here is not performative. It's not a flashy Instagram story or a grand public proposal. It's the girl who waits an extra 10 minutes at the market just to catch a glimpse of the boy who delivers bread. It's the boy who memorizes her walk, not her selfie angle. It's quiet, sometimes unspoken, but it's real. And while Tajikistan struggles economically, it overflows with emotional richness. Hospitality is sacred. Families welcome strangers with warm bread, hot tea, and the kind of sincerity that feels rare in the modern world. People may have little, but they give much. Kindness here is currency, and respect is love's language. So before we dive into the mechanics of dating here, we need to understand the terrain, not just the mountains, but the hearts shaped by them. Tajikistan isn't just a setting. It's a character in the story of love. And like the best characters, it's full of contradictions. Proud yet humble, weathered yet hopeful, poor in wealth yet rich in spirit. Now that you've met the land, it's time to meet its people and understand how love begins, grows, and survives in one of the world's most beautiful and overlooked places. In Tajikistan, love often starts not with a spark, but with a plan. Here, tradition isn't just a guideline, it's the framework through which many relationships are built. In rural areas especially, love doesn't always come before marriage. Instead, marriage is the beginning, and love is something you grow into. Many Tajik marriages are still arranged, though the word arranged carries different shades here. It's not always the dramatic, "you must marry this person" scenario. Often, it begins with a quiet suggestion. A mother noticing a polite young man at a wedding, or an aunt who knows a family whose daughter is just the right age. If both families agree and the pair is willing, the marriage moves forward, sometimes with only a few meetings beforehand. And yet, there's care in the process. Families don't throw two people together randomly. Character, work ethic, and family reputation all matter. Compatibility is not measured by chemistry, but by values, lifestyle, and background. It's matchmaking guided by history, not algorithms. Dowries are still common and can be a source of stress or pride. A groom's family is often expected to provide gifts, property, or money, symbolic gestures of commitment and readiness. In return, the bride's family may prepare furniture, clothing, or even livestock. The exchange is less about transaction and more about tradition, though for poorer families, it can stretch finances thin. And the wedding? It's not just an event. It's a public declaration of unity. Guests pour in from neighboring villages. Entire communities celebrate. There's music, dancing, mountains of food, and days of festivities. Everyone participates, not just out of obligation, but out of joy. A wedding is a binding of two families, not just two individuals. Yet behind the festivities lie quiet pressures. For many women, especially in conservative areas, the timeline for marriage is narrow. By their early 20s, they're expected to be wed. Unmarried women past 25 may face whispers, judgment, or pity. It's not just a personal milestone, it's a social one. Take Nigora, a 24-year-old woman from a small town near Kulab. She's bright, ambitious, and dreams of becoming a teacher. But her mother worries. Soon, her mother says, people will ask what's wrong with her. Nigora smiles politely, but confides later that she feels the weight of two futures, one she wants to build and one she's expected to live. For men, too, the pressure is real. Many feel they cannot marry until they've worked abroad and saved enough to afford the dowry and a home. This delays marriages, sometimes for years, and creates a ripple effect. In their absence, young women are left waiting. Entire communities adapt to the rhythms of migration. And in this gap, loneliness grows, not just the kind that comes from being single, but from feeling forgotten in a culture that measures worth through marital status. Some find ways to bend tradition without breaking it. Secret meetings, love letters, quiet conversations in alleyways. There's a thrill in the forbidden, a sweetness in small acts of rebellion. But if discovered, these moments can lead to harsh consequences, for women especially. Reputation is everything. A girl seen alone with a boy may be assumed impure and considered unfit for marriage, regardless of the truth. Honor, though a beautiful concept in theory, can be a prison in practice. Entire futures can be decided by a single rumor. And yet, despite all this, there is a tenderness in traditional Tajik love stories. There's the couple who never touched hands before their wedding day, but now raise children with laughter and deep understanding. There's the husband who writes poetry for his wife every Friday, and the wife who walks an hour to bring him fresh bread at work. These are not grand gestures, but enduring ones, built not on butterflies, but on bricks. For many Tajiks, tradition doesn't mean a lack of love. It means love grows slowly, like a garden tended over years. It may not start with fire, but it often ends with warmth. And yet, as the world shifts and internet signals reach even the most remote valleys, things are beginning to change. Young people want more agency. They still value tradition, but they want choice too. They want to be heard. This quiet evolution is where old meets new, and it's happening right now across living rooms, village roads, and phone screens. The question is no longer, will you marry who your family chooses? But can we create something that honors the past and feels right for our future? In Tajikistan, love has long followed a familiar script. But in the cities, And even in some villages with a decent Wi-Fi signal, that script is being rewritten, one swipe at a time. Dating apps like Tinder, Mamba, and Telegram chat groups are quietly reshaping how young Tajiks connect. They're not mainstream like in the West, but they're growing, stealthily, hesitantly, and often behind locked screens. Because in a society that values modesty and tradition, digital love is both thrilling and taboo. Urban youth are leading the charge. In Dushanbe, university students scroll through profiles between lectures. Emojis replace shy glances. Pickup lines compete with poetry. And while most bios are sparse, often just a name and age, the intent is clear. Curiosity, connection, and maybe even love. But this isn't just about technology. It's about rebellion, subtle and soft. For many young people, especially women, these apps offer something they've never had before: choice. They can talk, flirt, and even reject without parental oversight. That freedom, however small, is seismic. It's a shift from being chosen to choosing. Still, there's risk. Even in the capital, being seen on a dating app can tarnish a reputation. Screenshots circulate, gossip spreads. For women in particular, the consequences of being too modern can be severe. Lost trust, strained family ties, or even social isolation. So they tread carefully. Pseudonyms are common. So are burner accounts and late-night chats deleted by morning. And while some use these apps for casual chats, others are looking for something real. Zahro, a 21-year-old medical student, says she met her boyfriend on Mamba. "We were both nervous," she laughs. "But we realized we wanted the same thing. Someone who understands our struggle. Someone who listens." Their relationship exists in a liminal space. Real to them, secret to everyone else. They meet in libraries, on campus, and sometimes walk the long way home just to talk without being noticed. They've even created their own code words to communicate through text, masking affection with academic-sounding phrases to avoid suspicion. For the Tajik diaspora, dating apps have opened new doors too. Many Tajiks working abroad use them to stay connected with people back home. Some relationships begin on opposite sides of the continent, united by language, culture, and longing. These digital romances offer a bridge across time zones and expectations. But while apps offer opportunity, they also create tension. Generational gaps are growing. Parents often see them as dangerous, tools that undermine family values. And with no cultural script for online dating, young people are navigating uncharted waters with little guidance. The apps themselves aren't designed for Tajik culture. They assume independence, privacy, and liberal social norms. But Tajik society is collective, private, and cautious. So users adapt. A woman may only show her eyes in her profile picture. A man might only message late at night, never during family hours. Every move is calculated. And yet, despite the secrecy and stress, one truth remains: the desire to be seen and to be loved on your own terms. And while Tajikistan may not be leading the digital dating revolution, it's carving out its own quiet version, one that blends whispers with Wi-Fi, poetry with profiles, and risk with reward. This is the new face of love, hidden in plain sight, evolving under pressure, and burning quietly behind every screen. So here's the question: what can $100 buy you in Tajikistan? In most of the world, $100 might get you dinner and a movie, if you're lucky. But here, that same bill can stretch across days, maybe even weeks. And that's exactly what we set out to test. With just $100 in our pocket, no credit cards, no backup cash, we wanted to see how far we could go in experiencing love in all its forms. Not just romantic dinners, but kindness, generosity, awkward silences, and unexpected connections. We started in Dushanbe, Tajikistan's modest yet charming capital. The city pulses with a relaxed rhythm. Old ladas buzzing past roadside tea houses, kids chasing kites in public squares, and students hanging out near fountains where they scroll through their phones with cautious curiosity. First date? A tea house near Rudaki Park. We met Laylo, a 22-year-old literature student who agreed to a chat over green tea and kurutab, a traditional bread and yogurt dish. The bill came to just $4, but the conversation was priceless. She talked about her dreams of becoming a novelist, how she hides her short stories in Google Duddy notes, and how she's never actually gone on a date before, not one labeled as such anyway. Lalo said something that stuck with us. Love here, it's not bought, it's borrowed. You borrow time, attention, patience, but not everyone can repay it. Next stop, a trip to the countryside. The idea of dating is still whispered rather than spoken. Here we spent just $10 on bus fare and shared plow. Love it right, 20 one of them offered his thoughts did romance sense. One girl never spoken aloud. Another asked if we thought arranged marriages could still lead to love. We returned to the city with $60 left and a mission. Experience love through every lens. Friendship, flirtation, even heartbreak. A third encounter brought us to a university bookstore, where we bumped into Rustam, a 26-year-old artist. Over the next 2 days, we shared meals, visited a gallery, and talked about Tajik identity, lost traditions, and the difference between affection and performance. He told us he once courted a girl by painting her portrait in secret, a gift he never gave. We offered to pay for dinner on our last night, a humble spread of lamb kebabs and compote. It cost $8. He tried to stop us. Love isn't expensive here, he said, but it's also not cheap. You pay with trust. By the end of the week, we had $22 left and a pocket full of receipts that barely covered the emotional weight of what we'd experienced. Because in Tajikistan, love isn't a transaction. It's layered, quiet. It shows up in generosity from strangers, honesty from first-timers, and vulnerability from people who have little but still offer everything. And the deeper we looked, the more we realized that this journey wasn't about stretching money. It was about stretching comfort zones. It was about learning to read the silence between sentences, to respect slowness, to embrace the awkwardness of new connection. A woman we met at a small mountain bazaar said this: "In Tajikistan, love is not loud, it's loyal." And maybe that's the secret. Maybe in a world obsessed with fireworks, love here is more like a candle, steady, warm, and able to last through blackouts. We didn't just go on dates, we listened. We were challenged. We sat with families, we shared stories over soup, and in the process, we learned that $100 can take you surprisingly far. Love here isn't flashy, it's not packaged or polished, but it's real, and sometimes that's worth more than anything money can buy. Love in Tajikistan is beautiful, but it isn't easy. While $100 might buy a few meals and shared moments, the true cost of love here isn't in simony. It's measured in choices, sacrifices, and courage. Falling in love is only the beginning. The real challenge starts when feelings clash with tradition. Take Gulrukh, a 27-year-old nurse who fell for a fellow medical student. They shared late-night study sessions and whispered dreams until family expectations intervened. His parents wanted someone from their region. Her father had promised her to a cousin. They haven't spoken in over a year. It wasn't that we didn't love each other, she says. It was that love wasn't enough. In Tajikistan, marriage is a family alliance, a matter of honor and sometimes survival. Breaking from tradition comes at a cost. Reputation is fragile. Forgiveness is slow. For women, the price is even steeper. A woman seen as too independent risks exclusion from the marriage market. The line between confidence and rebellion is razor thin. Even education, while encouraged, can backfire if it makes suitors uneasy. Men face their own burdens. Many work abroad for years to afford marriage basics, a dowry, a home, a wedding. But the distance changes them. When they return, they often feel out of sync, speaking a different emotional language. There's no dating culture here. Relationships must be intentional. Every gesture carries weight. And yet, people still try, still hope. People still dream of love, not just duty. And sometimes, against all odds, they still leap. Tajikistan is at a cultural crossroads. For centuries, life followed paths set by elders. But quiet shifts are underway. In cities, couples are pushing boundaries, choosing partners based on connection, delaying marriage, even trying dating apps in secret. Romantic autonomy is growing, slowly, cautiously, but resistance remains. Elders fear that with fading traditions comes a loss of identity, that rituals, once loosened, can't be reclaimed. And their fears aren't unfounded. Globalization brings both opportunity and erosion. Still, some believe tradition and change can coexist, that love can be arranged or discovered, and both paths have value. What's certain is that Tajikistan is evolving. Each generation balances tradition and modernity with increasing care, because how a society loves is how it lives. And here, that love is being redefined in quiet, brave ways. So what does love mean in Tajikistan? It means sharing stories under apricot trees. It means navigating centuries of expectation with modern hope. It's honoring the past while daring to dream differently. In a place where $100 can stretch for days, but cultural rules stretch for lifetimes, love isn't just romance. It's a quiet rebellion. Sometimes it's sacrifice. Sometimes it's silence. And sometimes it's simply choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. In Tajikistan, love adapts, it endures, and in the most unexpected places, it still thrives. So if you ever find yourself in Tajikistan with nothing but an open heart and a few bills in your pocket, don't underestimate what you might find. And if you felt something watching this, a spark, a shift, a thought, hit that like button. Share this video and subscribe. We've got so many more untold stories waiting to be told. Aruba is known as a tropical paradise, a place where crystal clear waters meet golden sand, and where life seems too good to be true. But beyond the breathtaking scenery and luxury resorts, there's a secret that most people don't talk about. Aruba is also one of the best places for single men looking for an affordable and exciting lifestyle. Many people dream of escaping the fast-paced grind of Western cities, but few find a place that offers both beauty and financial freedom. Aruba might just be that place. Stunning women, a welcoming culture, and a cost of living that won't drain your bank account, and this island has it all. But is it as perfect as it sounds? For decades, Aruba has been a well-kept secret among travelers who seek more than just a vacation. Some come for the weather, others for the nightlife, and many stay for something even more surprising. Unlike other expensive Caribbean destinations, Aruba allows you to enjoy luxury without spending a fortune. But what's the catch? Is Aruba truly a hidden gem, or is there more to the story? Today, we're peeling back the layers of this paradise to find out what life is really like on this island. Whether you're looking for love, adventure, or just a cheaper way of living, Aruba might have exactly what you need. Stick around, because what you'll learn today might just change the way you think about life abroad. Now let's get into it. Women of Aruba, natural beauty and independent life. Aruban women have a natural beauty that feels effortless and authentic. Their sun-kissed skin, striking features, and diverse backgrounds create a unique blend of Latin American, Caribbean, and Dutch influences. Unlike in many Western cities, where beauty often feels like a carefully curated image, women in Aruba embrace a simpler, more organic approach. Their glow comes from the tropical sun, an active lifestyle, and a culture that prioritizes confidence over perfection. What truly sets them apart is their relaxed energy and easygoing nature. The dating scene in Aruba is refreshingly different from the fast-paced, high-pressure environments found in major Western cities. There's no obsession with impressing others through flashy displays of wealth or social status. Instead, dating happens naturally, whether at a beachfront cafe, a lively music festival, or through mutual friends. Conversations flow effortlessly, and relationships develop organically, without the complications of modern dating apps or social media-driven interactions. Aruban women are also warm, social, and welcoming. They enjoy meeting new people, dancing, and celebrating life with a carefree attitude that makes them incredibly approachable. Unlike in places where guarded interactions and status-driven relationships dominate, dating in Aruba feels more organic and enjoyable. There's no sense of urgency, no rush to define things. It's about genuine connection rather than playing games. Cultural values and family. Beyond dating, Aruban women are deeply connected to their families and communities. Independence doesn't mean distancing from loved ones. It means balancing personal ambitions while maintaining close family ties. Women in Aruba pursue careers, education, and personal goals, but their relationships with family remain a priority. If you're dating an Aruban woman, meeting her family is likely to happen early on. Family gatherings are a regular part of life, often filled with laughter, food, and storytelling. Unlike in some Western cultures where independence can mean prioritizing personal success over relationships, in Aruba, success is often measured by strong connections and shared experiences. This emphasis on community extends beyond just family. Friendships are deep, and social circles are welcoming. Women value trust, loyalty, and meaningful relationships, whether romantic or platonic. If you become part of an Aruban woman's life, chances are you'll be embraced by her entire network of family and friends. A refreshing change from Western dating culture. One of the most striking differences between dating in Aruba and in major Western cities is the absence of a status-driven mindset. In many urban settings, dating can feel transactional, where success, wealth, and social standing often overshadow personality and genuine connection. In Aruba, confidence, personality, and kindness matter more than designer clothes or financial status. Women here appreciate men who are genuine and relaxed, valuing good conversation and a sense of humor over material possessions. The pressure to conform to unrealistic beauty standards is also much lower. Women embrace their natural bodies, and confidence is what makes someone stand out. For many men, dating in Aruba offers a refreshing contrast to the competitive, image-conscious culture found elsewhere. Without the stress of proving status or wealth, relationships feel lighter, more enjoyable, and built on authenticity. But Aruba isn't just about dating. It's the entire lifestyle that makes it special. Beyond romance, life here offers something truly unique. Let's explore what makes Aruba an incredible place to live. Cost of living and lifestyle in Aruba. Aruba offers a lifestyle that feels luxurious, but how much does it actually cost to live here? While not the cheapest destination in the Caribbean, Aruba is still significantly more affordable than major Western cities. Daily expenses depend largely on lifestyle choices, but for those who adapt to local habits, life can be comfortable without breaking the bank. Rent is one of the biggest expenses, and prices vary depending on location. A one-bedroom apartment in a non-tourist area typically costs $800 to $1,200 per month, while beachfront or high-end accommodations can be significantly higher. Many expats choose to live slightly inland, where rental prices drop but amenities remain within easy reach. Food costs depend on whether you rely on imported groceries or buy from local markets. Fresh seafood, fruits, and vegetables are widely available and reasonably priced, making it easy to maintain a budget-friendly diet. A meal at a local eatery costs around $10 to $15, far less than the expensive tourist restaurants along the coast. Cooking at home using local ingredients is the best way to save on food expenses. Transportation in Aruba is straightforward and relatively inexpensive. Many locals and expats walk, bike, or use public transport, which keeps commuting costs low. Taxis can be expensive, but the island's small size means that getting around is simple. If you own a car, gas prices are moderate compared to other Caribbean islands, and with short driving distances, fuel costs remain manageable. How expats and retirees make it work in Aruba. Living affordably as an expat in Aruba. Aruba's picturesque beaches, stable economy, and well-developed infrastructure make it an attractive destination for expatriates. However, living affordably requires strategic financial planning, as local employment opportunities are limited for foreigners. Most expats sustain themselves through remote work, retirement savings, or entrepreneurship, allowing them to enjoy the island lifestyle without financial strain. Remote work and digital nomads. Aruba's strong internet connectivity and growing number of co-working spaces have made it a favored destination for digital nomads. The island does not yet have a specific visa for remote workers, but its relaxed entry requirements allow many to stay for extended periods. U.S. citizens can remain visa-free for up to 90 days, while Dutch nationals and others may have longer allowances. Some remote workers maintain long-term stays by leaving and re-entering under the standard tourist visa rules. The cost of living varies depending on lifestyle choices. Housing in tourist-heavy areas like Palm Beach is expensive, but more affordable options exist in residential neighborhoods such as Savaneta and Nord. Many remote workers opt for long-term rentals or shared housing to reduce expenses. Groceries and imported goods can be costly, but shopping at local markets helps cut down on food expenses. For those needing a professional workspace, co-working facilities such as the lab in Oranjestad provide a reliable environment for productivity and networking. With steady internet speeds and modern infrastructure, digital workers can maintain their businesses seamlessly while enjoying the island's relaxed pace of life. Retirement in Aruba. Aruba's appeal as a retirement destination stems from its financial benefits and quality of life. The island has no annual property tax, making home ownership attractive for retirees. Instead, buyers pay a one-time transfer tax at the time of purchase, reducing long-term housing costs. Healthcare is a key consideration for retirees, and Aruba offers a mix of public and private medical services. The public system provides affordable care, but many expats prefer private insurance for quicker access to specialists. Compared to the US, medical costs are significantly lower while maintaining high standards of care. Dr. Horacio Oduber Hospital in Oranjestad serves as the island's main medical center, complemented by various private clinics. Beyond financial aspects, retirees enjoy a peaceful and safe environment with ample opportunities for outdoor activities. The island's warm climate and well-maintained public spaces encourage an active lifestyle, from beach walks to golfing and social events within the expat community. Starting a business in Aruba. For expats looking to create a source of income, launching a business is an option, though it requires careful navigation of local regulations. The process involves registering with the Chamber of Commerce and obtaining a business license, which can take several months. Foreigners who plan to work in their own business must secure a work permit, which is granted selectively based on the nature of the business and its potential to contribute to the local economy. Many successful expat-run businesses focus on tourism, including boutique hotels, restaurants, and activity-based services such as diving or eco-tours. Managing living costs. While Aruba is not the most budget-friendly destination in the Caribbean, smart financial choices make it possible to live affordably. Here's a breakdown of common expenses. Monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment in a residential area starts at $800, while beachfront properties cost significantly more. Purchasing property can be a better long-term investment due to the absence of annual property tax. Water and electricity costs range from $150 to $300 per month due to Aruba's reliance on desalinated water and imported fuel. Internet plans start at around $50 per month. Imported groceries are expensive, but shopping at local markets and choosing locally produced goods helps reduce costs. Supermarkets like Ling and Sons and Superfood offer a mix of imported and local items. Public transportation is limited, so many expats buy used cars, which retain value well. Gasoline prices are higher than in the US, but driving distances are short. Private insurance plans range from $100 to $300 per month. Many retirees and digital nomads prefer private clinics for specialized treatments. Challenges of affordability. The hidden costs of island life. While Aruba offers an affordable lifestyle compared to major Western cities, it comes with hidden costs that many newcomers don't anticipate. Imported goods are one of the biggest financial challenges. Almost everything that isn't locally produced, like electronics, specialty foods, and luxury items, comes at a premium. If you rely on name-brand products or imported groceries, your expenses will be higher than expected. Many expats quickly learn to adapt by shopping at local markets and buying regional brands instead of expensive imports. Dining out can also be expensive, especially in tourist-heavy areas. Restaurants catering to visitors charge significantly more than local eateries. Learning where to eat like a local makes a huge difference in maintaining a budget-friendly lifestyle. Earning a stable income is another potential challenge. Aruba's job market is small and well-paying opportunities are limited. Those without a remote job or independent savings may struggle to find steady employment. Tourism and hospitality provide the most job openings, but salaries often don't match the cost of living for long-term residents. Ultimately, Aruba can be an affordable paradise for those who live smart. By adapting to local customs, budgeting wisely, and ensuring a steady income source, expats can enjoy the best of island life without financial stress. But for those expecting luxury at discount prices, the reality may come as a surprise. The reality of life in Aruba. Work, community, and unexpected challenges. The work-life balance. Aruba's lifestyle is often described as relaxed, but what truly sets it apart is the emphasis on work-life balance. Unlike in major Western cities, where long hours and career-driven ambition dictate daily life, Aruba takes a different approach. Here, people work to live, not the other way around. The island's job market follows a slower rhythm. While businesses operate efficiently, there's far less emphasis on hustle culture and more on enjoying the present moment. Locals take pride in their work, but also make time for personal life, family, and leisure. A standard workday is shorter, and many businesses close in the afternoon to allow employees to rest, run errands, or spend time with loved ones. This approach to work fosters a less stressful lifestyle. In many Western cultures, burnout is common. People work long hours, commute through heavy traffic, and struggle to balance personal and professional lives. In Aruba, the culture actively encourages people to slow down and enjoy life. Lunch breaks are often extended, allowing time for a beachside meal or a quick swim before returning to work. Evenings are spent outdoors, whether it's social gatherings, casual dinners with friends, or simply watching the sunset. For those